Each candidate is going to have 2 minutes to introduce themselves. The question and answer session, each candidate will have a minute and a half to answer the questions. Questions were submitted by the public. As people came in, they wrote the questions on an index card, so we'll go through those questions. And then at the end, each candidate will have a minute to close. So with that being said, if we could start out with just the 2-minute introductions, and we'll start with Mark and just work our way through.
Thank you, Brian. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be before you tonight, and good to see a big crowd out here in Keniak and interested in our politics. For those of you that don't know me, I want to introduce myself. I'm Mark Weeks, and I'm the elected city marshal here for the last 6 years. I've been with the city for 9 years, and the last 6 of that as the city marshal. Born and raised here. My wife is here with my 3 girls. She works here in the Keniak Springs. They all 3 go to school here in the Keniak. It's just an honor and privilege to be in this community and share the love for the community that I know we all have. And at the end of the day, we all want what's right for the Keniak Springs and for the future of this city. You know, I want to tell you a little story about me and really how I got here. I said I was born and raised in this community, and we're going to go back a few years, but people probably remember back when you had Ralph Rushing on the streets checking the meters, and I can remember seeing him there and thinking to myself, I wanted a hat like he had. He wore a police hat, and I really liked that. I'm glad the meters are gone, but I always wanted to be here. And the road I got here took several different turns, but at the end of the day, I'm back here, and I'm proud to be here, lucky to be here, lucky to have twice been elected your city marshal, and hopefully we'll continue that. I'm very proud of the achievements we made, and hopefully we'll get to talk about some of those over the next few minutes, and how far the police department's come over the last 8 or 9 years. And I'm very proud of that and stand by what we've accomplished. And thank you so much for coming out, and I'll be glad to interact and answer any questions. And if we don't get them answered, I'll be here after it's over with the rest of the night to answer any questions outside if you'd like. Thanks.
Greetings. I want to begin by thanking each and every one of you for attending tonight, taking advantage of this opportunity to meet the candidates. It surely shows your dedication to the community. 23 years ago, I began my career here with the Keniak Springs Police Department as a patrolman. During my time at the Keniak Springs Police Department, I learned firsthand under the leadership of Chief Hooks the true meaning of a public servant. In 2008, I won the Attorney General's Law Enforcement Officer of the Year for the state of Florida. In 2010, I was accepted to the FBI National Academy. Approximately 1% of law enforcement officers are accepted to the FBI National Academy, and less than that graduate. I'm extremely proud of these 2 accomplishments. However, I do not feel I would have achieved these things if it hadn't have been for the mentors such as Chief Hooks that worked with me throughout my career. Over the past year, members of the Keniak Springs Police Department citizens approached me with the notion it's time to elect a new marshal. After much prayer for guidance and discussion with family and close friends, I believe I am truly the person for the job. Therefore, on January 1st, 2015, I made the decision to seek the office of City Marshal, and I resigned my position as captain with the Walton County Sheriff's Office. And I will tell you, if anything happens up here tonight, Mark, I'll give you CPR if you need it.
He didn't say he was going to take it.
Hey, you don't want Graham. Hey,
That survival rate may not be good, hey, Graham?
You don't want Graham doing it.
Good evening, I'm James Hurley, and I'm running for office of City Marshal. I've grown up in Keniak Springs my whole life. I attended West Keniak Elementary, Walton Middle School, and Walton High School, and Okaloosa Walton Community College. I have a bachelor's degree from Florida State in criminology. I started my law enforcement journey when I was 16 years old at the Walton County Sheriff's Office through DCT. At the age of 20, I became a Walton County deputy, where I was tasked with many different tasks, canine officer to dispatcher to working out of investigations. In 2005, I accepted the position with the state of Florida as a special agent with the Florida Division of Alcoholic Beverages and Tobacco. Currently, we work a lot of investigations from gambling to narcotics to prostitution and dealing with stolen property. Here we've been dealing with spring break for the last month, and y'all have seen what's going on TV with that. Nothing but guns and drugs. But I'm raising the family here. My wife and 2 boys. My wife teaches here locally, and my oldest child attends school. During my law enforcement career, I've received a prestigious award by the State Law Enforcement Chiefs Association as the State Law Enforcement Officer of the Year. I was nominated for that, and I was received an award as a State Division of Alcoholic Beverages and Tobacco Special Agent of the Year. And the police department is a business. We need to run it like a business. We need to be professional in the way we treat our citizens, and we need to be out there reaching our citizens. Thank you.
Where you going?
Okay, first question, and we'll start with Mark and just kind of rotate down just to keep the order of questions so each person doesn't always get stuck answering the question first. But
This isn't a CPR question, is it?
I didn't hear you graciously accept, so I don't want to get into that one, but I understand. Okay, what would your wish list be for the City Marshal's office regarding personnel, equipment, and training?
Well, you know, that issue is ongoing. That's kind of an open question. Because you can buy the best equipment today, kind of like a computer, and tomorrow it's out of date. And when I came here 8 or 9 years ago, we were kind of in that boat. We had firearms that were just too old, cars that wouldn't run, and we were doing a lot of things just trying to rob Peter Pan, so to speak, to keep things going. We cycled that out and got new guns, got new cars, got some new equipment, got new radars. Well, now I've been there long enough, we're cycling that stuff out again. We've already rotated another round of guns. People probably are seeing that our new cars are starting to rotate out. We had a 2007 Ford Crown Vic fleet, and they're still in service today, about 8 years into service, which is remarkable for a fleet car. But we've already started, you've seen the Dodge Chargers come in, and they're starting to rotate those out. That's, you know, I'm all about training, I'm all about equipment. You have to keep up with it and keep moving forward. And it's kind of like that computer at your house. You have to rotate it out from time to time.
One of the biggest things I think the city needs, we have a problem with narcotics. It's made a lot of good people go bad. And I think one thing we need would be, first off, is a canine and a canine handler to try and combat that epidemic. Secondly, I think we need to invest in our officers. We need to stop that turnover rate. We need to stop being a training ground for the Florida Highway Patrol, for alcohol, beverage, and tobacco, for sheriff's office, for all these other agencies. We need to stop that. And the only way we stop that is if we invest in our employees. If you invest in your employees, they will stay. They will see that you have their best interest at heart. I would love for the next police chief to be a police officer out there working the road today, that we get to send to the FBI National Academy, that we get to recognize for winning a state award or a national award. I want to see us, and they have good tools to work with. You need to give them the equipment to be successful and be safe and keep you safe. But first and foremost, we need to invest in them so that they stay with us and continue to be a part of our community.
Read the question one more time.
What would your wish list for the City Marshal's office regarding, what would your wish list be for the City Marshal's office regarding personnel, equipment, and training?
We're currently looking at the structure of the police department. We need another investigator. From what I can tell, working closely with these guys, is there's one investigator working narcotics. For that past 10 years, I've been working narcotics, and you can't work it by yourself. you've got to have help. We've got to reach out. We need to at least add one more position there. I'm not saying we're gonna bring on a whole new employee, but we need to structure that where we can put another employee into that position. We need to reach out with the sheriff's office and the state, and we'll start working with them to accomplish our task in cleaning up our streets. We need to get on board with the radio systems with the sheriff's office. Right now, from what I understand, we cannot even communicate with the sheriff's office in a critical incident. We've got to get our computers back modernized in our vehicles where we can take reports from the field and not the office. If I got to go back to the office to write a report, that takes me off the street and out of the visibility of criminals. We got to be out there, boots on the ground.
Okay, the next question we'll start with Michael. Have you ever been involved in an accreditation process, and how? Also, do you think the city police department needs to be accredited? Why or why not?
Yes, sir.
I can read it again to each one of you. It's kind of a long question.
Yes, sir, I have been involved in the accreditation process. I was involved in the accreditation process with the Florida Department of Transportation Division of Law Enforcement. I was also involved with the accreditation process with the Walton County Sheriff's Office. I've served as the accreditation manager for the agency. I do believe the agency should be accredited. It is not, you do not need a new police department to get accredited. Accreditation is just saying that you have policies and procedures in place and you're going to operate under those policies and procedures the way it's setting in your rules. You're not going to operate outside those. You don't need a new police department to be accredited. That is not accurate. It is not an added expense. You do not have to come up with a position for an accreditation manager. You just simply add that as someone's duties and responsibilities. It's not a full-time job. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. The policies and procedures are out there. You get them, you model them up to fit your agency, and you implement them. That's all it is. I think it's a good thing. These two both, I don't have a degree. I got 3,000 hours of training in law enforcement. I have a degree, but they both went to accredited schools, but they don't believe in accrediting their agency that's going to support y'all and protect y'all.
I never said I didn't believe in accreditation. I do work for the state of Florida for an accredited agency. When I came on board, we were not accredited. I have been through the accreditation process. I've sat on policy review. I know what it takes. The bottom line is, would you rather go to an accredited college or not? Would you rather go to an accredited hospital or not? Accreditation is a very good tool if it's used right. It provides third-party input. Somebody from outside the agency looking at you, critiquing your abilities, your policies, to prevent you from possible lawsuits. I think it'll save money there. The policies that you implement, the standards, they're proven throughout the state, through other agencies. It works well for them. I think it'll work well for us. Do I think PHNIAC's too small for it? Not necessarily. But I say let's address that issue when we get there and look at it financially and see if it fits our PHNIAC needs.
Can you repeat the question one more time?
Yes, sir. It says, have you ever been involved in an accreditation process, and how? Also, do you think the city police department needs to be accredited? Why or why not?
Well, I'm glad that question came up because obviously that's been in the paper a lot about accreditation. I worked for the Florida Highway Patrol for 12 years. They're accredited. I know what it is to be accredited. I worked with that agency when they became accredited, probably the first agency in the state of Florida in the mid-90s to be accredited. And in the field, you wonder, what's this all about? There is value in accreditation. Do not make no mistake about it. And I have never said that we should not be accredited. There's a time and place for everything. And our building, currently the way it is not worth putting 1 cent into it to be accredited. There's a time and place for everything. Being accredited is great, and I'm not against it. But you need to understand that it costs taxpayer dollars to get accredited. I've been through accreditation manager school, and they tell you it takes 1 to 2 people working full-time, no other duties, full-time, to make it happen. And it'll still take several years to make it happen. And the manpower we have at the agency, we're already wearing 3 and 4 hats. Again, I'm not saying it doesn't need to be done, but there's a time and place for that. And to put any money in that old building, more than what we need to just keep it going, keep the lights on, keep the rain off of us, is not worth it. We've all agreed that we're going to get a new or renovated place at some point in the near future, and that is the time to consider accreditation. You don't have to have a sticker on your car to be professional, to follow procedures, to be honest. You don't need a sticker or a patch on your sleeve to have honor, integrity, and honesty.
Next question, we'll start with James. What are your thoughts on merging with the Walton County Sheriff's Department?
It's kind of like the fire department question earlier. I believe that the citizens are paying for a service. I live in the city, and I expect a prompt response from my police department. And I don't believe that should happen. We've got an elected city marshal, and that's where we're at. We are our own infrastructure, we're our own entity, and we need to hang on to what we have. It's our history.
Repeat the question one more time. I just want to make sure that I understand everything you're trying to say.
What are your thoughts on merging with the Walton County Sheriff's Department?
You know, that's come up several times, and I know some communities in Florida have done that. And when budgets get tight, there's more of a push to do that. And I'm not for it. We're very unique in the city of Phoenix Springs to have an elected city marshal, elected chief, if you will. Matter of fact, there's only 2 city marshals in the state of Florida I'm aware of, and we're one of them. The other one's in Arcadia, Florida, if I'm not mistaken, south of Lake Okeechobee. Very unique to have an elected chief. You don't want to get rid of that, ever. There's only a few things in this world you get to vote for. And you're lucky enough to get to vote for your chief, whoever that may be. You never want to give up your right to vote for anything. Think about it. How much do you get to vote for in this little world? Not very much, but you're told what you're going to do usually by somebody. I do not agree with merging. We have different functions. What we do is different from what the sheriff's office does, different from what Florida Highway Patrol does, different from what other state agencies do. It's kind of like being in the military. You've got the Marines, the Air Force, Army, Navy. Why not just combine them all and have one? They all have different functions, that's why. We have a different function, and we're a lucky community to have a police department. We're the only police department in this county. Paxton does not have one, Freeport does not have one, and neither does South Walton. We're lucky to have it. You don't want to get rid of it. If you did, you wouldn't be able to get it back. It would cost too much money.
Well, I can just tell you, I think we all agree that none of us want to see that. If I wanted to stay at the sheriff's office, I would stay at the sheriff's office. I'll point out right here, you see this historic patch? That's impressive. There's 2 elected marshals in the state of Florida. And, we don't want to change the character of our community. And if you've done that, it would change the character of our community. And that would be a terrible thing. I would never support that. Plus, if I'm elected, I'd be out of a job. Who goes first this time? I'm confused.
Mark, then we're going to start with Mark. So next question, we'll start with Mark. I did the best I can to summarize this question, but why did the crime solve rate go from 55% to 8%?
I'm glad you brought that up, because that's obviously been another big sticky point in the news and on the media and from some of my opponents. The Uniform Crime Report was established by the FBI in the 1920s, I believe. And when they talk about the things that you have to report, they tell you, there's a disclaimer in there that you should not judge your agency, the effectiveness of your agency, by these stats and these numbers. One of the things that you talk about, 55 to 8%, the way we account for things we're doing at the police department are different than it was before. Years back, there were a lot of informational reports done. Informational reports have no reporting area on a uniform crime report. It's basically no report. We changed that. We said, we're gonna go and we're gonna make sure if there's a crime, we're gonna report it. I'm not worried about the numbers. Let the chips fall where they may. But we're gonna make a report if there's a crime. If we can't solve it, so be it, but we're gonna report it. We could just as easily make it informational and it's not reportable. But if you start reporting more crimes, guess what goes up? That goes up and your solvability can go down. It really is not an accurate figure to say that we're not solving any more crimes than we used to with that particular figure. And it's unfair to really say that. And the FBI in their disclaimer tells you about using the UCR to judge your agency. Shouldn't do it.
If you could pass it, thank you.
I believe the reason we have such a low crime rate or solvability rate is the lack of proper investigations. I'm not putting anybody down with our officers, but we've got to start putting good, solid investigations out there. We've got to start seeing our people in our community and talking with them. If we don't communicate with our citizens, we'll never get anywhere. I've never solved a crime where I didn't have to talk to somebody. And when you say, you know, it's a UCR issue, how come Niceville Police Department is running at 41.5%? How come Crestview's running at 24.5? How come Shipley's running at 59.8? We need to evaluate what we're doing here with our crime rate, people. This is affecting us. This is your property that's being stolen, that's not getting back to you. We've got to get serious with this. We've got to start doing proper investigations. We've got to start getting out, canvassing neighborhoods, talking with people, interviewing, not just showing up, taking a report and leaving. Taking DNA. The database isn't big enough yet that everybody's packaged with DNA. We've got to start doing old-fashioned, solid investigation in this town to get our crime rate down and our solvability rate up.
How about prevention? I don't know if any of you looked at it, the org chart for the police department, but there's 20 sworn law enforcement officer positions up there, okay? 9 of which are supervisors, okay? 5 are the chief, the assistant chief, and 3 lieutenants. So you got command level administrative staff. We need to reallocate resources, put them on the street. I agree with what James said about proper investigation, boots on the ground, and you need to do that through utilizing your resources more effectively and efficiently. Put those people out there. When you factor in that you got 20 employees, and you got 9 supervisors, and then you've got 3 investigators, do the math. How many people are on the street, visibility-wise, preventing crime from ever happening to begin with? That's your number 1 mission. Your number 2 mission is to solve it when it happens. But our goal is to prevent and deter crime. And I think we need to reallocate our resources, put boots on the ground, put them out there on the street, and let them get in the neighborhoods and learn from these citizens what's normal in their neighborhood, what do they need to protect them, what do they see we need to do better to protect them better. James?
I think it's.
Is it me?
Thank you.
I
Okay.
feel like I'm picking on you now.
No, you're fine. I
starting with.
Hot potato.
What should be done to improve officer retention?
I think I answered that in my earlier question, and I'll reiterate it. We need to invest in them. Listen, 23 years ago, I started at the police department. I had a dream to be a police officer, and they believed in me when I was a 20-year-old kid. And I worked for Clint Hooks for 4.5 years. I loved Clint Hooks. I loved Delmer Russian. I loved all those guys. But you know what? They wouldn't ever let me go to school. They wouldn't ever let me do continuing education and improve my skills. That's why I had to leave. I want to come back and lead this agency, and I want to invest in our officers. I want to stop that retention. I want to send them to school. I want to recognize them for good work, award them, send them to, nominate them to go to the FBI National Academy, the Southern Police Institute. There's several schools out there. For God's sakes, just give them the opportunity to better themselves. They all have a public servant's heart. That's why they pin that badge on their chest and strap that gun on their hip, because they believe in helping others and they want to be the best they can be. So give them the opportunity to be the best they can be.
what you probably don't know is in the last 13 months, I've lost one employee. And that was last month. In a small agency, it's hard to keep people. There's only so many places you can go. And if you want to do other things, like beach patrol, SWAT, some of the other things, we just don't have that. And if you want to do that, you're going to have to probably go someplace else. And we've had peaks and valleys when we've lost people. And I'm very proud of the last 12, 13 months, we hadn't lost one person, including a dispatcher. But we just lost one this month to the sheriff's office. You want to know the reason? Insurance. He needed insurance for his family and just couldn't afford it with the city because his wife and him just had a baby and they couldn't afford the city's insurance. But going to the county was about half the cost of that insurance. That's a big thing. Our guys have all the opportunity in the world to go do anything they want to do. I've encouraged it. We send them. We let them go on their own time. We'll send them if we need them to go to a particular school. The city's even got college incentive money if you want to go back to college. We let people do that. We encourage training. If you read the paper today, you probably saw we did active shooter training at the high school last week during spring break. Something that you don't want to talk about, we don't want to deal with, but we got it here for our guys. And I thought it was important for them. So we all are about training. Thank you.
God has a path for each one of us in our lives, and sometimes we choose to go other places. But what we got to do is hire some local folks too, people. We've got to keep people that are from here that want to invest in their community. And I'm not saying that everybody, you've got enough pool to hire from inside the city, but we've got to start fostering that growth. We've got to start reaching our young children in this town, just like I was, to get on board with law enforcement and become an officer in my own town, my home county. We've got to do that. We've got to build. Everybody has been to a job that they didn't like. But thank goodness my boss is here tonight supporting me once again.
I thought that supported me.
That's what you got to have. You've got to have support of your boss. Your boss needs to be out there with you at night. The boss needs to be out with you, helping you, assisting you, leading you, guiding you. That's what keeps people around. The love, knowing your boss has your back and has your support and will do anything he can to support you and help you. That's what we need. That's what the job of a chief is, being out there with his men, encouraging them, giving them the proper training them yourself, fostering that growth.
I think you can keep it your
Okay.
next. In your opinion, do unions like the PBA help or hinder a department long term?
Being a state officer, we do have a union, and it is the PBA for us. I am not a member of the PBA, and I've never been a member of the PBA. I think in times where you have leadership that might be wavering for the protection of the officers, I believe it's a good thing for those officers. Do I feel personally that it's feasible to spend $30 or so a month for that protection? I have faith in my bosses that they're going to do the right thing. So, on an individual basis, that's going to be up to the officer. And, if that's what the officers want of the police department, that's what they deserve and that's what they'll get.
I think it's a good thing for them. Listen, the PBA is not like the Teamsters, like you have, like a lot of you envision up north. The PBA provides additional insurance coverages, like Chief Weeks mentioned a while ago about it, the officer leaving. They give them life insurance coverage. They give them free attorney coverages with their membership. There's several benefits that come along with the PBA membership. Also, it gives them a voice in how management runs the agency. It does. You don't let the tail wag the dog. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying. That's not it. But they do have a voice. None of us sitting at the top have all the answers. And we need to listen to our troops. We need to listen to the citizens. And those officers, just because they're an officer doesn't mean they don't have good ideas and they couldn't come forward. The PBA, through contracts, give us a better working environment.
I have absolutely no problem with the union. When I was with the Florida Highway Patrol, they're covered by PBA. Actually, we lost PBA and went with IUPA for a while, then back with PBA. I was never a member of PBA. I was a member of Florida Association of State Troopers. They didn't handle even our bargaining stuff, the PBA or IUPA did, but they did give us life insurance coverage, an attorney if you needed it, and you know, some support in that kind of field, if you will. We didn't have a union when I came to the police department 9 years ago. It's been here almost 5 years, 4.5, 5 years, I think now. I have absolutely no problem with it, none whatsoever. You can be a member of any union, whether it's there representing your people or not. You can still be a member of the PBA or any other organization and not have the union represent your people. I don't have any issue with it whatsoever. When we came there, or when I came there 9 years ago, became chief 6 years ago, I was going by some of the contracts that I had with the Florida Highway Patrol, with the PBA and IUPA, to make sure these guys got it. And when the union came in, basically they just put in writing what they already had and what we gave them in the time that we were there. I don't have a problem with it. It's like, it's a security, if you will, for some of the guys. We work well with them, haven't had any issues, and I don't have a problem with the PBA or any union.
Start this one with Mark. Can the city marshal's office reduce its budget and still maintain current services?
How much do you want it reduced?
It's not my question.
I can cut $100 tonight, maybe even $500. If you want to cut it drastically, you're going to lose positions. I think we talked about that earlier. The way the majority of your budgets is always your people and the salaries you're paying. And you know, we cost you money. We don't make you money. That's what law enforcement is. It's just a fact. When I came to the police department, we didn't have a dispatch center. We opened it April 1st, 2007. We had to create it overnight, basically, less than 6 months. We had to hire 5 dispatchers and create a 24-hour-a-day business, if you will, with dispatch. It costs money to be safe. It costs money to have 24-hour coverage in law enforcement, 911, fire rescue, whatever it is. And unfortunately, you can cut your budget. We have cut our budget in areas that we thought we could. I have lost a position in the last couple of years. We lost our evidence property technician, which was a non-sworn position about 2 years ago. We did not replace that position. So we did cut our budget some in that category. And when you lose that position now, you don't lose the responsibility of what that person was doing. So somebody else had to pick up and put on that hat and start doing that job. So you can cut it, it just depends on how much.
Currently, the Phoenix Springs Police Department budget is a little over $2 million. They have 20 sworn members, 6 dispatchers, an administrative staff, and a custodian. Okay? Of that little over $2 million, 1.4 and some change, about 1.48, 1,418,000 is just salary and benefits for employees. So if you're going to cut the police department, the only place, like Chief Weeks said, there's some areas where you can cut a little bit here and there. For example, the 2-tone patrol cars, that's about $1,700 a piece. You could go back to white cars and just put stripe packages on it, cut money that way. But other than that, to really cut deep, you're going to have to cut into personnel. The budget's not really big. Like I said, 1.4 million just in salary dollars with benefits.
You know, looking at reviewing the budget, there is about a $2 million budget, and you know, each line item has certain things. And we talk about trimming the budget. I think we need to evaluate our budget and trim the fat. From what I can tell, we have a 2002 Impala still on our budget we're paying maintenance and insurance on. That's the kind of stuff that you trim. It's sitting in an impound yard somewhere and it's not being even moved. We've got to look at those kind of things. Instead of looking at reducing the budget, let's look at getting some grants in this town. Let's look at applying for some grants and getting some funding. You've seen the sheriff do it. You've seen the equipment that he's got. It's been funded, more personnel. That's what we got to start looking for. Trim where we can and find other places.
So last question of the evening, and we'll start this one with Michael. In your opinion, what is the current state of the city marshal's office regarding manpower, equipment, vehicles, response times?
In my opinion, there's a problem. That's why my name is on the ballot. My problem is with the heavy structure of management. There's too many supervisors and not enough people on the streets working. When you got 9 supervisors, well, I'll tell you what, let me take that off. You got 5, let's count the 5, the command staff, and then you count the 3 investigators. I'll give you the 4 sergeants because they're running a shift, so they're out there working the road. You're down, your number's down drastically to people getting out there and preventing crime before it ever happens. So I think we need to step that up, put our troops on the front line, out there in the neighborhood, where they get to know who you are, know what your needs are, know what's normal in your neighborhood, and address it, address these problems. Listen, I don't know if you know it or not, but 6% of the population causes 80% of the crime. We need to identify that 6% of the population, and we need to deal with them. And we need to use our resources better to deal with those 6%.
Read the question one more time.
In your opinion, what is the current state of the city marshal's office regarding manpower, equipment, vehicles, and response times?
Well, being out here for the last few months, I've talked to you, the citizens, about how you feel about this police department, and you can answer that question yourself. I've heard that it takes up to over an hour sometimes to respond to a simple call for service. We've got to start looking at our resources. We've got to use our resources efficiently. And like Mr. Howell said, you know, we've got 10 supervisors to 16 employees. Too many chiefs, not Indians. We've got to have boots on the ground. We've got to have managers. That's important. But when you're about 50%, it's not going to work that way. We need people out here servicing you, being in your community. We need our officers to get out and reach our community and talk to our citizens. That way, when I was growing up, I knew who every police officer in my town was by name, and they knew who I was. It's time we get back to that, folks. Our officers need to get out of their vehicles and come up and introduce themselves to people. They need to start caring about our people. They need to, that's the way you're going to solve crime. That way people can discuss concerns the issues they have. I'm going to be out of town next week. Can you watch over my property while I'm gone? There's a guy on a bicycle. He kind of creeps me out. He comes by here at 10 o'clock. Can you have somebody patrol the area? That's the kind of service we need. A personal service is what we need. We're all a family. This is the Phoenix Springs is my family, and I'm here for you.
I love this question. When I came here 9 years ago, on day shift, there was one officer out. And many times, the chief, assistant chief, in my case at the time, would have to go back that person up because there wasn't enough officers on the street to work. People couldn't take off, couldn't take leave. There's one sitting in the back there that probably could vouch for that because he worked by himself a lot. We made a commitment that no officer was going to be scheduled to work by himself. So what we did was we aggressively put in a 5-year plan to get more officers on the street. There are 4 squads, 4 3-man squads, work 24 hours a day opposite each other. There are 3 people scheduled out each and every day. Now, when you take into consideration leave, annual leave, sick leave, training, we'd be lucky to have 2 out. We've got more officers on the street now than we've ever had in the history of this agency. Around the clock. That's a fact. 4 squads, each run by a sergeant, Because you gotta have a supervisor out and make sure there's supervision 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. To say we don't go out in the field is just wrong. We're going out in the field. When there's a call, we hit the street. I'm backing people up. It doesn't matter when. We had a shooting in Oakdale the other day. There wasn't one person in the office, except for the dispatcher and my secretary. We have one support staff person, and that's my secretary. That is not enough for all the agency that we have to do every day. Thank you.
That's it for all the questions. I have been informed by our timekeeper that we can give each of you guys 2 minutes for closing because we have a little bit of time. The questions were shorter, it's a smaller group. So with that, how would it be fair to start with James in closing since you were last on the introduction?
Once again, I want to thank you for your time. It really means a lot to me to come out here and speak with you tonight. And, folks, we've got to make a change. Our crime rate's up. We're solving less crimes than we ever have in the past. You've seen it in the newspaper. You've seen it all over. Our violent crime, just like the chief said, we had a shooting in Oakdale. We had a girl that was pulled a knife on downtown a couple weeks ago. That stuff is moving into our downtown area. We've got to make a stand. We've got to make a difference. We've got to get out, like I said, and connect with our people. We've got to reach our community in all aspects of our community, from the lake yard to the east side to the west side. We've got to reach our people and be out there with them. And it's just going to take having that strong leadership to get out there and lead these guys and do it myself. Get out there. If I expect my guys to do something, I need to be willing to do it myself. Like I said, I would appreciate your vote and I would appreciate your support during this election. Please vote for me April 14th, James Hurley.
I want to thank all of you for the opportunity to come before you tonight. All employees of the United Springs Police Department and citizens deserve the very best in the quality of life, recognition, and public service. As Marshal, I commit to you the mission of the United Springs Police Department will be to plan, develop, implement, and administer policies, procedures, and programs which will provide for an efficient and effective law enforcement service which will result in the detection and prevention of crime. A low crime rate and sense of safety are the two most basic qualities of a vibrant city. A law enforcement agency cannot achieve success on its own. Tremendous public support and critical community partnerships will ensure the police department continues to move forward in its mission. Under my leadership, strategies and tactics to improve the effectiveness and efficiency use of resources will always be evolving. We will become a dynamic organization, able to adapt in ever-changing crime trends and issues. It is best that the Phoenix Springs Police Department continue to try and reduce crime in our community, thus improving the quality of life. As Marshal, I will be humbled to serve you and to serve with the great police officers of Phoenix Springs, citizens, and community members. I commit to you my every effort to make you proud of me, should the fine citizens of the Funiac choose me as their next city marshal. Thank you for your unmatched commitment to our city, and please vote for me, Michael Howell, on April 14th as city marshal.
Serving as your city marshal is a tremendous honor for me, as I told you in my opening statement. I don't take it lightly, and I'm blessed to be here. I come to work every day with a goal of making our police department better and continuing to deliver the highest affordable level of service we have. The highest affordable level of service that we can give you. And that's what we're doing, to try to keep that budget down and under control, but keep you safe at the same time. There is a balancing act every day to keep people on the street, keep the budget down, make sure they get paid, and the resources are there for them. As your city marshal for the next 4 years, I'll continue serving our community with professional law enforcement, high standards, and personal hometown service. You've gotten that from me. I'm here for you. You can call me anytime, day or night. Carry 2 cell phones on me, I'm available 24/7. Got a home phone, office phone, home email, work email, and a 24-hour dispatch. You can get a hold of me anytime, I guarantee you that. I greatly appreciate the honor and privilege to come before you tonight and speak to you. It means a lot to me. And the questions were fair, and I'll take the shots, because that's why I sit here in front of you. Good or bad, I get the blame. When you're elected, good or bad, you'll get the blame. My guys do something good, Mark's the best thing ever. They do something bad, Mark did it. He got to go. I hope and pray for our city to keep moving forward. I personally know how far it's come in the last 9 years, because I've been there. I gave up a good job. Come here when things wasn't so good. Benefits wasn't there, cars didn't work, guns wouldn't shoot. We changed that. I humbly ask for your support and your vote. And please, I ask one last question. Ask yourself, do you feel safe in the Puniac Springs?